Welcome back. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to another episode of Breakfast Blend.
It is upon us, sir.
It is. Winter's coming. Not really.
Winter's coming. Winter's not coming.
Winter's
Summer's coming.
Summer's coming.
Summer's coming.
Yeah. Is that her name, Brandon? Summer?
Yeah, it's 90 degrees outside right now.
Yeah, it's pretty pretty hot.
Mother Nature is hot and spicy right now.
That is true. You know what else is hot and spicy? That motherfucking like and the motherfucking subscribe button. How about you guys
hit
that, please?
Let's get some hot and spice on that.
Please.
Double down. No glass of milk. Come on.
No glass
of milk. No heartburn medication. Come on. Come on. One thing in this life you can get spicy on is the subscribe button, bro.
He's got a point. The man has a point.
It is. I mean, it's tested and true.
These are facts, people. These are facts. Now,
just out here spitting facts. You know, that's what we do here.
Now, what do you want to talk about today, man?
So I want to talk about how like we had a bit of a recording break, and to be honest with you and everybody out there at home, it kind of sent me into like a weird downward spiral.
Oh, okay. I like that.
So I want to talk about how, you know, when you're focusing on your mental health and you're focusing on the life that you're living, how sometimes when you start messing with those little pieces and parts, man, you need to come with a little bit of consistency.
You know,
to maintain.
Here's the thing. I'm really glad that you brought this up because for a little while, like I felt like I was dumping a lot on you, right? Because a lot of things were happening with me, with work, and like, you know, obviously like my lifestyle has changed, all these other things. And, you know, like it was interesting having that conversation with you a couple of days ago. So to kind of loop the viewers in on this whole thing, Brandon and I touched base like right after I got back from visiting my family. And through that conversation, like, you know, we realized that we both missed the interaction with these sessions, right? But then through the conversation, like one of the things that like we got into accidentally, it wasn't even like anything that we planned, but we accidentally got into the conversation of like just needing somebody to vent to, and then also for somebody to just be able to say things are going to be okay. Right.
Like I went through this strange, like without having this kind of like, I guess the best way to put it is like the dump of information that goes on when me and you do these things together. Like without having that, without talking to you really, because I was also trying, like I knew you had kind of like a crazy schedule with traveling and you had stuff kind of you wanted to do and whatnot. And I didn't want to really get in the way of that. But at the same time, it was like, I felt like I was all alone. Mm-hmm. And I look back and this isn't the first time that's happened in my life, clearly, but like you could go through life and have plenty of people in your immediate presence, but still feel alone.
Yeah.
Because you're missing something specific.
Yeah.
And you're kind of missing that get it off your chest moment. You're missing that, like, not to say anything, like I love my family. I truthfully do. I live for my family. That's who I do everything for. They're why I get out of bed every day. Like, you know, when I don't possess the internal motivation, they are my motivation. You know what I mean? But on the same token is sometimes the conversations that we have are very different than the conversations that I would have with my family.
Right.
And
right.
That's kind of an important deal is like, everybody says, oh, you know, my significant other, wife, husband, whatever is my best friend. I can talk to them about anything. That is true. That is true in my case. That's true in your case, but it's not always the conversation you're looking to have.
No, absolutely. And I think that like the big thing that we have to separate and the big piece that you just brought up is the fact that we're lonely, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking about lonely physically. Like You could be like, imagine this, right? Like, this is a perfect example of what we're talking about when we're saying lonely. Have you ever gone to a restaurant and like it's like fucking jam packed, right? And then like you go and you're like, "Can I get a table?" And then they go, "A table for how many?" And then you're like, "A table for one," right? And then they go, "Oh, you're the one." Like
Oh, you're that guy.
that feels lonely. Like
Right.
you're in a crowded fucking space, right? Again, there's a lot of people waiting to be seated. There's a lot of people at the restaurant eating. But just because there's a bunch of people there doesn't mean that you feel like you belong to that one issue that you're feeling about, right? So
Right. Like you're just you're not even in the crowd.
right,
You're
right,
just kind of off by yourself.
right. And that is the feeling of loneliness that sometimes comes over us. And like what you were saying as well, I felt it also. And I've also I get exactly where you're coming from by saying that, like, yes, you can definitely talk to Lacey about it. You can talk
Right.
to, friends about it. You can talk to family about it. But sometimes it's not necessarily the fact that you want to talk about it, but more so that you want somebody to listen and only give you advice when you really want it. It's a really weird mix because, like,
Right.
you're
And it's like
almost
you know what you kind of want to hear, or you know what you kind of need to hear. And maybe you're looking for the person who's actually going to tell it to you that way.
exactly.
You
Yeah,
know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like, and I don't mean that with a negative connotation. Like that could come off wrong. If somebody takes that the wrong way, I apologize. But it's
Right.
more of like a you're not trying to pick the best answer or the most convenient answer. It's like, when me and you had that conversation a little bit after you got back, it was more like, "Hi, bro,
Mhm,
but you're gonna be good.
mhm.
Like I'm back. We're good. We're gonna go at this. We're gonna do this, and you'll figure it out. You always do. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like it's more of like somebody to call you on your bullshit. It's almost more on the other side of things. Of if I ask Lacey, she's gonna be like, "Oh no, we're fine," because she just doesn't want me in a bad mood or whatever. But I want that unsolicited sometimes, where it's like, "Bro, stop fucking around. You're fine. Like, yeah, I get how you're feeling. I respect it, but look at all the things that we got going for us. Look at what we're doing already. Look at what we're gonna do. Here's the schedule. Like, and bro, you've been through this a hundred times. You'll be fine.
Right, right.
It is what it is. You'll
Right.
figure it out."
And the thing is that, like, sometimes we want to hear advice from people that 100% get it, right? And again,
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
I'm not I'm not trying to be a dick with that, because I'm not saying that certain people do not try to understand it, because I've have a lot of people in my support system that, like, when I tell them, "Hey, I'm feeling like this," they end up going, they're like, "Hey, do you want to go out? Like, do you want to go like grab a meal? Do you want to go grab a beer? Do you want to like," they offer everything under the sun. And sometimes it's not necessarily that I want to do those things. It's the fact that I just want to connect with somebody that fully understands that problem, and for them to give me the information that I think I need to hear so that I can validate my own thoughts. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
100%. And on top of that, too, so like this happened in our conversation. So we talked about, like, you kind of gave me a rundown of what you were doing and this and that. And it was like I was in this weird kind of space, and you were like, "Okay, well, we're going to do this. We're going to record here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But for right now, what I need to do for me is clean my workspace, like clean up the house, get things in order. Just coming back from traveling, I need to like recenter myself a little bit." And like, I don't think you were really trying to tell me, like, "Yo, motherfucker, go clean your desk off and clean your office up. Like, get ready for what's about to happen. Like, clean desk is a happy desk kind of deal." But so, like, I heard that's what you were doing. And instantly I was like, let me try that. Let me do something about my surroundings right now. Let me clean up, let me get organized, let me get back to square one of, look good, feel good kind of vibe or whatnot.
Yeah.
And bro, like it it was different.
It
You know what
changes
I
you,
mean?
right?
Like
It
it
changes you.
definitely, for me especially, is like I have everything kind of moved around and put where it's supposed to be, and like I didn't do anything crazy. I just like, instead of coming in the door from working, grab the mail, throw it on my desk, leave it there for who knows how long, and half the time it's like, "Ooh, replace your windows, and here's a paper from a week ago, and
Mhm, mhm.
here's," it's just random, but like just throw it away, like get
Right,
rid of
right,
it,
right.
organize your life a little bit, and it comes back. And like so many good things have kind of happened in a very short period of time since like I took your advice. I was like, okay, it's gonna be fine. I instantly just tried to manipulate my own mindset from, okay, I heard it from Nelson, and I need to listen to the dude. Like he knows me. Like
Mhm, mhm.
we've come way closer together because of all this.
Right.
And I feel like you gave me the information that I needed, but you weren't like super like sappy about it either. It
Right.
was very direct. It was very, and then like, so dude, like I've gone on to have one of the best weekends that I've had in a long time. Like it's not been slow go. Like there wasn't any amount of lost in my weekend, where I wind up by myself and not knowing what to do or this and that. And it's been like a positive weekend all around. I've gotten so much done around the house, out in the world, kind of all together. I've just kind of, okay, put one foot in front of the other and make it happen. Like we've
No.
been through this. I know how to do it. Like,
Yeah. No. And dude, like, here's the thing with that little cleaning thing, right? That I was telling you about. So I learned that from I think I picked it up from a friend of some sort. They kind of told me that. But basically what that does is that like your brain and hopefully you're okay with me sharing this piece, right? But
absolutely.
okay, so when you and I talked, you were in this place where you were just like, dude, like everything is just happening at once, like fucking bills, fucking responsibilities. Like I have to be here, I have to be there, I have to make this happen, I have to make that happen. Like everything was just piling on, right? So sometimes when we fall into those situations where there's so much happening, our bodies, like they or our minds, kind of let go of the little wins that we had, right? And honestly, like cleaning your house or at least cleaning your workspace, shit, even cleaning your bathroom, even your
Right.
car, like it gives your mind something to go, oh, well, I did that though, right? Like even though it's small, it gives you that step to
It's like
say,
that first little step of accomplishment, and then you remember that, oh yeah, you can do things.
right, like it
Because
almost
it
gives
is
you,
it
it
is
gives
weird.
you,
I just want to say that. Like I just
yeah,
want to say this out loud real quick. It is weird how, and I think it's not just unique to myself or you. I think we all do it as people, is we start to doubt that we can actually do anything.
correct,
Like
right,
the negativity takes over to the point where it's like, oh, I can't even brush my teeth right. I can't
right.
even, oh, I should have taken a shower then instead of then. And like, you get into this like weird, funky spot where it's like, whatever. And then like, it's definitely funny where like I cleaned up my office completely. Like it's cleaner than it might be cleaner than it's ever been. Like since the day I moved in. But
Damn,
whatever. Like
yeah.
it's very organized. Like I would gladly flip the camera around and record in front of you with whatever I got going on right now. It looks like a movie set, to be honest with you. Like
No, and that
crazy.
and that's the thing, man. Like, like the thing is that you're right when you say that like we are quick or we allow our brains to very easily just give up, right? So then
Right.
what ends up happening is that your brain goes, okay, well, I'm a piece of shit, right? So at that
Oh,
moment,
instantly.
right. So then at that moment that you take a step to do something to better yourself, your brain then goes, you're not a piece of shit. You still
Right.
have some value. And that's what cleaning does. That's what like the little like again, I use cleaning because that's what my trigger is. I was just kind of talking to Brandon and that's my trigger. It worked for you too. For some people it could be a fucking jog right? For some people, it could be, playing video. I don't know, right? For me, whenever I'm feeling like that sense of not belonging, or that sense of like everything is just piling on, I have to get control of something. And to me, the easiest thing to get control of is the thing that I can clean, which is my desk. That's where I
Right.
start out with, right? Then I move on to like the rest of the house and stuff like that, because it helps me separate myself from the mind that says you're a piece of shit versus the mind that goes, you got this, you can figure it out, right? So sometimes it's not even just a matter of like reaching out to somebody because they will have an answer for you. It's just a matter that like, if they have felt it, if they have gone through the same shit, it almost makes you feel human, and it makes you feel like it's okay because other people dealt with it too. That's what you're really looking
Well,
for.
and not only that, but the success of just that. So I cleaned my office. I felt better instantly. I went on to have a awesome day with my family for the rest of the day. We went and did a ton of stuff, and it wasn't anything crazy, but like we just had a good time the whole time. Like we were all firing on all 8 cylinders. Things were great. Came home, went to bed, got up this morning, went out and played the best golf of my life. Like I had to find a way to work that in there. But I really feel like I would have never broke that milestone. So I broke 80 today. I shot a
That's sick.
79.
That's
And
awesome.
for anybody that knows how to play golf or plays golf regularly, like for my fat ass to shoot a 79 is, I mean, that's one of those life accomplishments and honestly, there's guys that play this game forever that don't accomplish that. But I felt like I walked up today with this clear mind of I'm just here to chill and have fun and hopefully play some good golf. And I went out there and fucking did it. Like,
No,
and
and
but I honestly, if we didn't have that conversation and I didn't follow through with cleaning my office or doing this or doing that or having the day that I had yesterday or whatever, I feel like I would have never done that. I would have went out and shot a 104 and been pissed and sitting here right now talking to you like I suck at golf.
no, I 100%, 100%. And I believe that. I 100% believe that. And I think that like, it speaks highly of you, right? Because like you're able to, this is where like, if you ever pick up anything about this show, this is what we want you guys to pick up. We want to break the stigma around mental health. We want to break the stigma around like, the fact that males don't have feelings, right? We want
Dude,
to,
I want to break the stigma of like males are just supposed to like take everything and not say anything or
right,
not do anything about it.
right.
Because
Like,
like I know some of the older dudes in my life, like some of the older guys that have been a part of my life for one reason or another throughout the years. Like I feel like those guys had so much more to offer, but they were so beaten down and that they don't even know how to get it out.
right. Well, and the thing is that like when you're talking about the OGs like that, right? That they didn't know how to get out. Well, they resorted to like fucking alcohol, right? Or
Mhm.
even like drugs of their own, right? Like
Right.
they resorted to a lot of things that like
Or just
gambling,
unhealthy practices.
just unhealthy things,
You know what
right?
I mean?
Right. Like so when you open up and you're willing to talk about these things that are happening to you, right? Like one, like that's what I'm telling you. Like you should be proud of yourself that you're willing to talk about it because it's not easy. It's not easy, especially to a fucking friend, dude. It's not easy saying to a friend, "Hey man, I'm a fuck up. I'm not feeling the sharpest today. I'm not like it's hard, right? Because
Like
like
I just felt off all week. Like even at work, I felt like I wasn't hitting the marks that I had. Like everybody has that day where like, you know, normally you go into work, you kind of have an expectation, you get through it. You know, I'm one of those people that like I thrive on my own accomplishments at work. Like I
yeah,
get stuff done, and like when I have one of those days where it's like, oh, I only got like 3 things done, and I needed to get like 5 or 6 at
yeah,
least, and then you're like, well, oh well, we'll try it again tomorrow, and then tomorrow goes the same. And
right.
then you're like, then you feel like you're behind, which causes you to dabble in all 15 things that you need to get done, but not actually complete any of them. And then
Well,
it
and
just
and then
keeps
And then
snowballing from there, man.
right, well, and then you're also adding the layer that like because of the fact that it becomes so overwhelming, right? Because now like you're out of time on top of the fact that you're also like have a lot of things. Now you're going to procrastinate because your mind doesn't know where to start, right? So you
Right,
end up
because you're
going
like,
like
fuck that, I'm not doing that because that's
right,
gonna take me to an even worse place because I'm never gonna be
exactly.
able to get it done.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
then that's where like the ring of negativity starts.
Mhm.
And then it
Exactly.
just fans out from there. It's
No,
fucking
and
crazy.
that's where it was great that like you were willing to open up about that, right? Because like again, I felt something was off when we talked, right? Like here's the thing that like I'm still in this place where like I read people. I
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that is to me that is a gift that I have. Like I know how to read people. So I know something is off, but I didn't know what it was, right? And I also didn't want to be like all up in your shit. Like I didn't want to be like, "Hey Brandon, what's going on?" Right? So it was like it was good how the conversation started because you almost were like to me, you were like, "Hey man, how's it going?" Like, you seem a lot more mellower now than you were before. Like everything's good, right? And then from there, it kind of like opened up to this new conversation, which was the aspect of, I'm not feeling so great. Here's why, right?
Right.
And like I said, I think that that is very good for us as one males to practice, right? Two, it's also okay for you to practice that with another male because like I said, it's always been very difficult because in older years, right? Like I remember, my parents, they didn't like showing other people when they were struggling. They didn't
No.
they didn't like to tell people when they were struggling. And there's a big difference, right? There's a big difference between like, am I gonna tell you that I owe $10,000 in credit card versus I'm gonna tell you that I'm in debt? Yeah, I'm probably not gonna tell you that I owe $10,000 in credit cards, but I will tell you that I'm in debt, right? So,
Right.
but even my parents didn't do that. Like my parents would be like, we're okay, right?
Everything's great.
Everything's great. But in
Rainbows and
reality,
butterflies over
right.
here.
And in reality, it wasn't, right? And then what ended up happening is that, like, you as a kid, you ended up creating these stories because you didn't know what the fuck was happening, right? And you were trying to, like, justify why it is that your parent acted a specific way. That's the part that I'm, like, looking to break now by being open about how it is that I feel, and especially being open as how it is that I feel from a male's perspective. Because, like, again, that's not something that we usually do.
Absolutely. And I will say this is like something that I've always so before we really developed this almost daily interaction between us based around, what we're doing here with the breakfast blend or Dad Man Dude in general. I when I would get like that previously, I would full force throw myself into straight savage hustle mode, which I I like the fact that I could do that and that I know that about myself, that I can throw myself in a mode where it's take every opportunity, do it to its fullest, figure it out, get creative, kind of like full blown hustle. But the problem is when I'm in that like, oh fuck, full blown hustle mode, I'm not the best person to everybody else around me.
Mhm, mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Absolutely.
I'm almost overly direct. I'm super critical of things. I'm constantly like, well, why the fuck is that? Like it does have its negatives, right? But now I'm finding that this is another way to deal with it is to actually have a real like let it out
Mhm.
conversation with my boy and go from there
Yeah,
like
yeah, exactly.
and start taking those steps to get back to normal because what I'm trying to do is one of the biggest things with my own mental health is I'm trying to think about my mental health from the perspective of the people around me as well.
Mhm, mhm.
And I don't think that you should ever just do it for somebody else. But if you have people around you that you truthfully care about, sometimes you could do it for them if you can't find it in you to do it for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
It's that I may not feel like I could do this for myself, but I know I need to do it for them.
Hmm.
So even if it's that slight little bit of push for that motivation, like, so that's why I try to at least think about that of like on my own mental health journey, whether it's letting myself be angry for a little while over something or whatever it is, how does that affect the people around me that I truthfully care about? Because I don't want it to turn into a thing, and that's been part of something that I've thought about that has scared me a little bit from time to time is like, I don't want to be that guy that's like goes through a midlife crisis and then, breaks up his family and does all that crazy shit. Like, that's not what I want.
Right.
Uh, um, so I think like to bring it home, it's like, just have the conversation, get it off your chest. And then you might get advice that you don't even know that you need.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
thing that's going to fix it might be so goddamn simple.
Hmm.
Like, and that's the thing is like, and then once you start projecting positivity, it starts to come back without you having to try to reach for it.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
And
and
that's
like,
where like, even down to today, how I feel today, it's like I've reached a life goal today, which I never like. I didn't know that by having the conversation with you, snapping my brain out of it, cleaning my office, doing this, doing that. I didn't know that I was going to reach one of the goals that I set for myself in life. I never thought about that.
Mhm.
That wasn't a clear like, oh, if I listen to Nelson, I could accomplish
Right.
this goal.
Right. Right.
Let me
Right.
listen to Nelson and do
Right.
what Nelson says. And
Right. Right.
no, that wasn't like that at all.
Right. And I think that's the thing that like I'm glad that you pointed that out, because there's a big difference between like you said, like finding that person that you can listen to. Like that doesn't mean that you're gonna do everything that they say. That's not what it is. Like, and you're right, like also doing it for you is one of the biggest things. But the reality of it is that like what we're asking people to do, right? And this is like our advice from the aspect of, the situations that we've been in, right? Like, again, find those people that you trust, try to convey what it is that you're feeling. Feelings are hard, man. Like feelings are very difficult to explain. Feelings are sometimes illogical. Feelings are sometimes like disturbing. Sometimes they are annoying. But like if you find a method to talk to somebody about what those feelings are, you may find that somebody probably is feeling the same way, and it will validate how you feel. And in return, you're going to end up finding out that like you're not alone in the process, and that there is a playbook for the things that you're feeling. And like you don't have to reinvent the wheel, because sometimes what ends up happening is that when we fall into those holes like that, where we end up feeling like there is no solution, we end up getting deeper into the hole because we have nobody that we can really relate to. So what ends up happening is that our brains go, well, fuck it. Nobody else has seen this. I don't know how to handle it. Nobody knows how to handle it. We're never going to get out of this. You're fucked. Just quit, right? That's what our brain does. But when you have these conversations with people and you find that person that you can validate these feelings through, like Brandon said, right? In his situation, he ended up going, oh shit, this kind of works for me too. It kind of helped me reset. It's something that he's probably going to try later on. That is what we're asking you to do with your side of things, right? Kind of think about those and like talk about them. Like, don't be afraid to discuss what it is that you're thinking. Cause like sometimes we end up being scared too, like letting other people know what we're thinking, because we feel that like they're going to judge us. And you know what? They are going to judge you. There's no way
They
around it.
absolutely are going to judge you. But at the
Yeah.
same time, if you have enough respect for the person and the person has enough respect for
Right.
you, sometimes you need that judgment a little bit
Yes. Yes.
because I don't know. See, I look at it too as like it takes me back to like when you get pissed off as a kid and your parents are looking at you like, dude, you have no reason to be pissed right now. Like sometimes you're on your bullshit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and you're right in the middle of that temper tantrum where like you don't need somebody to be like, knock it the fuck off. You need somebody to be like, well, dude, like you're a grown ass man.
Mhm, mhm.
Like to just call out I mean, stationary facts about the entire situation that make you sit there and go, yeah, I was
Mhm.
just kind of having a temper tantrum, huh?
Right, right.
You
Yeah,
know what I mean? You don't
yeah,
need the shock moment of stop being like that. You're being fucking dumb. Blah blah blah. Blah. Like that's not what most people are looking for. Sometimes you do need that. Don't get
Mhm.
me wrong, but like in my case in this situation, I needed a little bit of reassurance, a little bit of suggestion, and then also to get back to doing what it is we do.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like we've become very repetitious and we fall into a routine, which I think is helpful for the human race.
Mhm.
It's just how our minds work. Like I don't know that there's a scientific explanation other than that, like the fact that we possess the ability to problem solve kind of falls along with that. Is like sometimes we put ourselves in problems on purpose without knowing it to be able to solve them and feel better.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. No, dead on, man. And like here's the my summary of all this, right? Like this is the part that has taken me a long time to figure out, right? One is I was afraid of being vulnerable. I was afraid of being vulnerable with people that I trusted, which is fucking dumb because those are the people that you
It's like
should.
a it's like a double stand. You're holding yourself to this standard that doesn't exist.
Right, you're the only one that's created that standard. Like
Right. Like you
nobody else knows about it.
and it's like it's like we all have this picture of ourselves in our head,
Yeah,
and you have no idea what mine looks like. I have no idea what yours looks like. But somehow I'm supposed to be afraid to tell you where I think I fucked up in my own story.
right, exactly,
Like when you break
exactly.
it down like that, it doesn't even make any sense.
No, no, and the thing is that like here's how fucked up the brain sometimes is, right? Is the fact that like we also end up going like, well, I'm not going to talk about this because they will never understand. When in reality, like that person probably is more fucked up than you, and they probably understand even more than
Oh,
what you
and
are.
dude,
Like
we've proven that time and time again
hundred
between,
percent,
you know,
the multiple
here at
conversations. Yeah,
Breakfast Blend, DMD, personal conversations, the whole nine yards. Like
yeah,
we've proven
absolutely,
that
absolutely.
we're like, oh, you are just like that.
Yep.
I thought I was the only one.
No,
Like,
that's what I'm telling you, man. Like it's important that like you are okay being vulnerable. Like just it's okay. And like I said, are people going to judge you? Yes, they're going to judge you. But you know they judge you because they don't understand. It's not because they yeah, some people are dicks and they're going to judge you because they are just judgmental pieces of shit. But for the most part, human beings are going to judge you because they don't understand. And we as human beings, we are forced to group people or group things no matter what it is. And this is one of those situations where judgment is kind of like a grouping for us. That's what we do. So kind of get that out of your head that like you don't want to be judged. You're being judged either way, honestly. It's
right.
a matter of how you want to be judged that is really the solution to this whole thing. And for me, I'd rather you judge me on the reality of things than judge me on your speculation. So I would rather talk to you about what's happening with me. So then that way you know how to make an educated guess as to how it is that I'm feeling and what it is that I'm going through. Um, like like I said, like being okay with that was one of the biggest steps that I had to take. And I'm okay with that now at that point of being vulnerable. The other thing that you're going to have to be okay with or like kind of learning is you have to determine whether or not you are venting to somebody because you want a solution or because you want a bitch. And it's also important that you let that person know what it is that you're after. Because there's some cases where like I may reach out to, let's say Brandon, right? I may reach out to Brandon and I'm gonna be like, hey Brandon, here's what's going on. And then he'll be like, well, this is what you can do to fix it. Here's what you can do. Here's how to invest. Here's how to make this happen. And then if I go to him and I go, well, fuck that. That's stupid. Well, that puts
Right.
Brandon
I didn't call you because I wanted to hear what I'm supposed to do about it. I just
right,
wanted a bitch.
right. Well, and that
Well,
puts
if
you
you
in a
would have
place,
told me that,
right. Well, and that puts you in a place where then you go like, well, fuck you. I'm not going to help you then, right?
right.
But if I take the responsibility of telling you, right, going, hey Brandon, I do not need you to problem solve. Just let me bitch. Then you're going to fucking shut your mouth and you're going to listen to what I'm saying. And then eventually you're going to give feedback on how to do things, right?
Right, but it's
That
almost the
is,
timing of it that makes the
yes,
biggest difference. Is
yes,
like
but
you'll be like, "Yeah, fuck that shit. That's dumb. I fucking
right,
hate it."
right. But
I know exactly what you're talking about.
but
I
that is our
fucking
own
hate it.
responsibility. Like we have to let the person know whether or not we want to hear a solution or not. That's number two. Number three with this whole thing, right? So being vulnerable is number one. Number two is letting the person hearing you out know what it is that you want out of this whole thing. And number three is if you do ask for advice, fucking take the advice. Don't be a dick about it. Like, because again, all that does is that, like, if you're asking for the advice and you've blatantly, excuse me, asked for it and you don't take it or you don't even try it or you don't even consider it, then you're wasting my time and you're wasting your own time, right? Like,
Right,
it's,
then you
it's not good for
probably
anybody.
just wanted to bitch in the beginning.
Right. And that's where,
That
like,
might be it.
right. And that's where like you end up losing connections because you end up rubbing people the wrong way. So it's important that you like really identify those as you're kind of diving into what you truly feel to understand how to deal with the situation that you have at hand. Like, and that's where like those are the things that have helped me out through this process. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but at the same time, like at least it helped Brandon that one day when he was feeling the way he was. So
Right. And then realistically, like coming out to the other side of it myself, I think more importantly than whatever it was that put me in that mindset is knowing that I could control it.
right. Yes.
Feeling like you have that level of control that it's almost like a another card in the deck. Like and that's where like, once you have learned all these lessons, instead of just going through it, I guess is the best way to put it, then you have that as a trick in your bag to be able to go, "Oh fuck, I've been here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
how I got out."
Hmm.
Like it turns into a roadmap as a man growing, existing in today's timeline of you need to have those things in your repertoire, if you will. Like
Yes.
you need to have all of these things: the experience, the know-how, the being able to recognize certain things, the focus on your own, but at the same time, how can you give and take from others? And
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
dude, I think big picture, it is way bigger than any one of the little issues that we've discussed
Right. Exactly. Yep.
in just how to exist in today's world.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And like, dude, it's some really powerful shit when you
Mm.
start to like break it down like that. And I don't know that I would have had that aha moment had it wasn't been for you.
No, and same here, man. Same here. I mean, like, there's been a lot of things that like, I'm learning through this whole thing, but like just in general, like being able to open up to you and tell you some of these things that have happened, and you walking me through some of this stuff, right? Like me quitting work was a big thing, man. Like that was huge, right? Being
And
able
anybody that
to,
knows you personally knows that that is
yeah,
so far out of your
yeah,
normal thought process.
right, exactly. So, being able to have, friends, especially like you, right, that I could reach out to and be like, hey, Brandon, like, this is what I'm going through. And you going like, all right, man, like, well, first, like, like you did the, do you want a bitch or do you want solution type of conversation with me? Like, even without knowing you did it, right? Like, you kind of reached out and you were like, hey, man, like, how are you doing financially though? Like, are you okay there? Right. Cause like, I think that was your question to a, okay, well, maybe you need to look for another job, right? Like you need to do that first. Right. But like once you gauge that, I think that you were like, okay, well, maybe I just need to hear this guy out. Maybe I just need to let him do his thing, let him talk. Right. Maybe there's something in there that like is kind of brewing up. Let me talk about it. And you played that perfectly. And that to me was something that is welcoming and very, I'm hugely appreciative of that, because like that's not something that I've had previously. I didn't.
Well,
And again, like it could have been, sorry, and it could have been various reasons, right? It could have been a reason where I didn't allow people in to do that, or people just weren't interested. But I have that today, and it's awesome.
well, and dude, I mean, I want you to know that part of that is I truthfully care about you, right? Like
Same, same, same.
you'll like there's a line in the sand with everybody and their interactions with other people. You can get to the point where you care about a person enough to let them be,
Mhm.
or you can care about them enough to ask some of the tougher questions.
Yep. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a lot of times it's like in that case specifically, like I can't tell you that if we hadn't been doing this together and learning these things about each other, and part of it was stuff that I knew about you before, but we're
Mhm.
talking about the building blocks, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know at the time, like I was just trying to gauge, did were you making a decision that was calculated enough
Mhm.
or not?
Mhm. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Were you having a moment where, is this guy on the verge of breaking completely, like
Right.
breaking down?
Right.
Or is this guy really doing this for the right reasons?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
caring about another human being enough to and that's kind of important to what we said before is we were talking about sometimes when you call that friend, you need to kind of start with that of I'm just calling you to bitch or I'm calling you because I really want advice. Sometimes as the friend that's receiving the phone call, you need to field that properly.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
almost need to if the other person has done a a particular thing or a group of things that just seem out of character, seem different, seem weird, like check the temperature because like just like where we're at right now, you're coming back now and being like, dude, I didn't even know I had that.
Mhm.
Like that's portraying that is just as important is the openness and the availability of like, bro, I'm here for
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever it is. I'm
Yeah.
here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it that has caused me to reevaluate other friendships in my life.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
are
Well,
there anybody else that does that for me?
no, and
You
one
know what
of
I mean?
so as you were talking about that, like, like I realized that there is a third option to that list, right? So I initially said, one option is bitch, the other one is advice, right? The third one is voice of reason, right? Because
Right.
sometimes the decision that I made, I know is good. I just need somebody to go, you're not fucking crazy, right?
Right.
And that,
Or are you sure you're not crazy? Why
right,
don't
right.
you explain a little bit more to prove to me that you're not just fucking nuts right now?
Right, exactly. And I think that that is the part that like that you and I have been able to figure out about each other, right? Is the fact like now we get to the point where like I don't have to tell you whether or not I want advice. Like
Right.
that's not a factor anymore. Like to us now it's just like a okay,
We've
well
gotten into
usually
a rhythm
right, right,
almost.
right. And I think that that is the part that like makes our therapy sessions smooth because we know what role to take, right? And I think that that's one of the things that we weren't expecting to evolve out of the dad man dude thing, right? Like to us, the dad
No.
man dude was strictly like, like we just wanted to talk about things, and then like it was like, yeah, we may wear like a dad hat or a dude hat or a man hat, depending on the situation that we're talking about. Um, and like this has evolved into more of a I don't have to wear those hats. What I need to do is that like I need to listen and I need to like pay attention to you as a human being and see if your tactics as a human being one align with what society may expect it to be correct, and if it doesn't align with society, is society wrong in thinking the way that it is? And I think that that's the part
Absolutely.
that we've been able to validate, right? Like we've been able to kind of find that safe place. And that's
we've
the part
turned
that,
this into kind of an emotional Mythbusters.
yeah, totally. Totally.
For lack of a better way to explain it, is like
Dude.
we are going through this in the hopes that even if the content directly does not relate to the viewer, right? Maybe the process will.
Correct. Yes.
And I think one of the biggest things that for me that has changed is, and I know you do this too, because we've had several conversations around this, like we find it hard to listen to other people because we can't stop our brains during the conversation.
Yes, sir.
And it's not because we don't care. It's because we're trying to collect our own thoughts and then be able to spit it back out in a digestible manner, and in a manner that you feel like you're actually giving good advice.
Correct.
Or
yes.
you feel like you're actually giving the type of support that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the growth that exists in that range for me, it's changed my life in a short period of time.
Same here, man. Same here.
And it's given me abilities that I never knew I possessed.
Yes. Yes.
Like
absolutely
shooting a 79.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I'm dude, that's fucking huge, man. That's huge. No, and
I'm sorry I keep bringing it up, but I'm like on 11 about that shit.
Fuck no. I'm not sorry. Shit.
Like I did a dance and everything.
I feel like I need to bring up your score. like my boy shot a 79. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
But no, man, like, you know, like I definitely, one, from my perspective, I was appreciative of you talking about that, because again, I know we've had conversations like this before, but in the past few weeks, it had only been me, right? It had only been me talking. Like, it was like, man, I'm fucked up. Here's what's happening, right? And you just kind of like absorbed it. So in a way, like, it felt good to know that you're also human and that you were like kind of going through your own struggle as well. And like, it was fucking awesome because like, even though you were eating shit, you were still being a friend. You know what I'm saying? Like, you were still being a dad. You were still being a husband. You were still being like, you know, a human being to all these other folks. Right. And I think that that's the part that sometimes we don't allow ourselves to do at times, is forgive ourselves. Right. Like, we end up like fucking going like, well, if I can't solve it, then we're fucked. No, you're not fucked. Like, yes, it's going to suck. There's going to be things that you're going to have to struggle. There are things that are not going to be able to like be easy, but you're not fucked. You know why you're not fucked? Because of the fact that you have these support systems that allow you to have a safe place, right? Whether or not you have it with Lacey because you talk to her about real intimate shit, whether or not you have it with your kids because of the fact that you're able to, like, you know, have your son where you're his best friend and you guys can talk about video games and kind of escape the real world, or you're able to talk to Paisley about like being a kid, and then it helps you connect to the days when you were a kid, right? Or your friends, right? Where you can reach out to them and just be like, hey man, like, I'm eating shit. Anybody else eating shit? Anybody else want to talk about?
Is this for everybody? Like, did something happen in the ether where the Jupiter and the moon just took a shit?
Yes.
And it landed on top of all of us, or is it just me?
Right. And I think that is very cool to see nowadays, right? Like I said, and it's also very cool to see it in males. I mean, like I said, like, dude, my dad, the only person that he really talks to about his feelings, and that's even still very limited, is probably me and my mom.
Right.
Maybe my sister a little bit. Like, sometimes he doesn't even like to do it with my sister because I think that, like, in his head, she's still
talking to a little girl.
Yeah, she's still too young in his head, right? And then for me, like, I think that he's just like, well, you've kind of been dealing with this stuff. Like, you kind of have an idea. You're a guy. You have a family. You're probably like, I think that he feels that way, but he still hasn't fully opened up. And I wish that more males would do that, right? Like, and again, like, I wish
Dude,
that
and
everybody would, but I'm talking about males specifically, just because of the fact that, like, my background has been seeing males that do not speak.
well, that at least don't speak. And like, I think that, and I'm guilty of it too. So I don't want to, I'm not throwing stones here, but at the same time, it's like, who wins when you don't talk about it? Because it
Yeah,
sure as fuck isn't you. Like,
that's a great question,
you,
dude.
you know what I'm saying? Who
That's a great
wins?
question.
So if you portray this, I'm a badass, can handle everything you can throw at me, no matter what, and you're never going to hear a peep out of me about it. Who wins?
Yeah, yeah, good question, dude.
Because I really feel like you have to carry that around by yourself. And if you're not talking to somebody else about it and either A, getting validation, or B, get your fucking shit together, like you're not making any progress in any direction.
Absolutely, absolutely, hands down, dude.
So I almost wonder, like, and I know me and you have seen a lot of like great dudes in our lives, throughout our lives, whether it's people out in the world, friends, family of some sort, extended family, different things. We've all experienced a lot of people in our lives, and I wonder how much more I could have gotten from them if they were like, where could we really push this to go?
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like, if we all actually talked about this stuff, got stuff off our chest, and was able to move on. I mean, I can remember being stuck in holes like we were talking about at the beginning, where I was earlier this week. I can remember being there for more than a year
Mhm,
without making any progress.
mhm.
So I look at it like, you keep stifling your own progress by just living in this negative space.
Yes,
Talk about it, get over it, and the faster you open up about it and really get some outside advice from anyone, whether it's good advice or bad advice, it doesn't really matter. It's like when you get that information from somebody else, it can at least lead you to the end,
mhm, mhm.
meaning it could lead you to a greener pasture of some sort.
Absolutely, absolutely, dude.
And
Absolutely.
and that's one of those things, is I look back and I'm like, dude, I've been fucking this up for so long.
Well, and honestly, man, like, I really like that question. Like, who wins? Honestly, I love that question because, like, you're right. Like, you're basically like, you're
So you proved you're a tough guy. To
right,
who?
right. To who?
If they
Right,
didn't know about it,
right, right, right.
did you prove
Exactly.
it to anybody?
Exactly.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You do things in life sometimes to prove them to yourself. You do. We all
Mm-hmm.
do it. Which sometimes that's important. So, like, being able to do that, go through a shitty time and prove to yourself that it's a shitty time, that might be a valuable resource. But let's look at all the resources and let's see what's going to happen that's going to make it better,
You
or at
nailed it.
least to the point where, we're thinking about our own mental health. To where it's like, all right, what's really best for me?
Yes, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
sometimes you don't know the answer.
Mhm, mhm. And
Let's
that
call it
okay,
straight.
okay, but look, like, now you touch base on that point, right? Like, sometimes you don't know the answer, but if you have a network of people that you've been opening up to, you can throw that question up to them, and maybe you guys can come up with an answer collaboratively, right? Or
Right.
or at least if you don't come up with an answer as a collaboration, then you guys can go and say, hey man, you know what? It's not so bad after all, right? Like, like, and it doesn't feel so shitty. Like, it doesn't feel as fucked up, right? Like, because you have a
Somebody can
support
hang on to
system.
that weight that's on your chest for a little bit so you could breathe for a few minutes and get back at it.
Correct, correct. Dead on, dead
You
on.
know?
Yeah, no. Dude, honestly, like, I didn't think about those two things, like, and I'm definitely walking away with them from this. One of them being the fact that, like, who wins, right? Great fucking question. Love that question. And then the second one being like, like, talk to people about what this is. They may not have the answer, but at least you're not alone. At least, like, somebody's out there that has the same fucking problem, right? And, like, and at least if they don't have an answer for it, then at least like you feel good about it, because then you go, you know what, it was a fucking difficult problem, right? Like,
Right.
so there's that aspect too. So it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to talk to people. It's okay to not be a tough guy all the time, right? Like, yeah, of course we want to be fucking tough because that's how we're.
It's kind of in our DNA.
It's kind of in our DNA, but at the same time, like, you know what's fucking tougher? You know what's hood is you talking about your shit. That's hood as fuck. That is hood.
That is gangster as a motherfucker.
That is gangster as a motherfucker. So
because, and you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because I do want to touch base on one more thing, and it has to do with music, right? Like, how many times have you heard that song? You really connected with it. And whether it's lyrics, whether it's vibe, whether it's whatever. And that song has gotten you through something because of it. And then you're like, okay, well, I know I'm not the only one, because this dude right here is singing about it, rapping about it, whatever it is. And it's like, are they talking about me? Or is this just like more common than I thought it was?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have that aha moment.
Yes.
And then on top of that, how many times have you seen like a song come out and it's a banger of a song? You know, love it, respect, whatever. You know, top 10, top 5, whatever. And then all of a sudden you see the transition in the artist of, okay, now I made it, and now I'm really going to focus on what's important here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, I look at it this way, like, somebody that I watch a lot of or consume a lot of content from is Kevin Gates. I don't think he was the same Kevin Gates he is today.
No.
When his first song was really getting blasted out there, or at least we didn't know that side of it.
No.
And he's openly admitted that it's a learning journey, and he's going along with it. And now that dude is putting a lot of positivity without a lot of people realizing it. A lot of the stuff he has to say is basically like, here's where I fucked up. Don't do this. Or if you do wind up there, here's how you can get past it. And then here's how you do to prevent it coming back in your life again.
No, dude. Here's the thing. Like, everybody that's listening to this at this point should know that I am a huge rap fan. Love that shit, right? Brandon is too. We both love that shit. I'm glad you brought up Kevin Gates, because like, I've liked Kevin Gates for a while. Like, I like how he raps, all this other stuff. But you're right. One of the things that I absolutely love about Kevin Gates is the fact that he talks about the shit that he thinks without feeling sorry for it. Like, he's just like, this is who I am. And it may not make sense to everybody, but it may make sense to that one person, right?
Like, and take a line out of Cat Williams' playbook, that motherfucker is in tune with his star fucking player.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
And I'm sorry, but it's down to very simple choices in your life. Like, and I think that's part of the part that I respect the most about listening to it, and what I take away a lot is it comes down to a very simple choice. Like, almost everything that he talks about is just the nuts and bolts of everyday life, and how you handle people, how you handle relationships, how you handle interactions with other people. And that focus on myself, that outlook of what's best for me.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's something you don't see, or at least historically we haven't seen ever. Maybe but there's a lot of that out there. I mean, you scroll through any social media platform right now, if you fall in the demographic of excuse me, a man in his 30s, there's a lot of like, you're not alone. We're all in this together. We all have dealt with this. And hey, stupid, stop going back for more.
Right. Yes.
You know, and we hear this from vast amounts of people, but I don't think we're consuming. I don't think it's as in your face as it initially appears. but there's certain little catchy points that stick in my mind. Like, I don't know a whole lot about Jordan Peterson, but I can tell you that there's certain things that he said and then people have reposted and posted on social media that have given me that, like, the kid hearing from the coach moment. You know what I'm saying? Like that coaching of, like, you know, the world tells you to be soft. You don't have to be soft. The toughest motherfucker in the world can be the most gentle at the same time. It's knowing how to harness that power to be able to manipulate your own self and change your situation. And that's the most important.
100%.
Right? You know, like, the most credit doesn't go to the guy that's just a savage all the time. And the most credit doesn't go to the guy that's just, you know, soft all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's being able to be the strongest, hardest, hoodest, whatever, however you want to explain that, being able to be that, but controlling it.
Correct.
Knowing the answers, know when to pull that stuff out of your repertoire. I can't believe I used that word twice in this fucking podcast, but it's having those tools in the bag, that the tools in the bag are almost more important than the job that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
As a man, as a human, as a person, like, having those tools is way more important. And being able to open up, being able to be that, you know, big soft teddy bear with your kids or your wife or your significant other, being able to be vulnerable when the time needs it. But then, yeah, going out and handling business when you got to is also important. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, and
sometimes having that, you know, little bit of a mean streak can help you through a scenario.
No, 100%, 100%. And I like the analogy that you used of the tool bag, because, like,
when you say it like that, it sounds horrible.
It does. But, like, but I like the way that you used it, because, like, it's okay to have these things in your tool box or tool bag, whatever, in order for you to use it whenever you need it next time. But the thing is also, like, become familiar with your tools. Like,
right.
like here's the thing.
You don't get to be an expert if you're not familiar with the tools you have in front of you.
Correct, right? Like, just because of the fact that you have a a drill doesn't mean that you know how to use it, right? It doesn't mean that you know, like, the speed that it actually, like, works
or
at.
What all the features are for,
right? You don't know if it's a compact drill. You don't or impact drill. You don't know any of those things, right? So, like, it's good for you to practice what those tools are. So then that way, when you do use it, you know how to use it correctly. So it's okay for you to, like, master your craft, if you will, in that case, right? Like, and again, I love the fact that you use that analogy, because, like, we sometimes tend to go, well, if it's in my bag, I know how to use it. No, motherfucker, you probably don't. Like, you probably have seen it before, but you've never have.
You probably watched somebody else use it.
Right. Like, you probably saw Bob Vila back in the day and knew how to use it then, but you honestly have
Tim
never.
The Toolman Taylor, just because you watched him, doesn't.
Right. But your ass has never used a fucking circular saw, right? Like, so learn how to use it. Like, learn how to measure with it. Learn how to cut with it. Like, those are the type of things that, like, I think that we as human beings forget to do. And, like, we think that, like, because of the fact that we dealt with it that one time, that we know how to deal with all kinds of situations. And that's not the case. Like, we're still learning, but it's also good for you to practice it on your everyday interaction, so that you can become, like, comfortable with it and familiar.
Well, and I pride myself on, at least I think that 90% of the time I'm a smart-ish person.
You are, yeah.
But I think this is the difference between education and wisdom. Is what I think it boils down to. And with true actual wisdom comes success.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't matter how many college degrees I have or don't have. Doesn't matter what college I went to or didn't go to. I never went to college. But at the same time, do I have the wisdom of all the things that I've been through? And that's another question of asking yourself to really gauge of where you're at, and to think about, sit back and do a little bit of reflection once in a while. Look at the shit you've been through and how you made it to the other side, because you still woke up the next day.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
You've still made progress since then. So maybe it's that you don't even know that you know how to use that tool, but become more familiar with it in order to be able to pull that out at the right time, and know that you're not, that's the other thing too, is starting to learn, and which I think I am doing that now, is starting to learn, you know, I got 4 or 5 different hammers in the tool belt. You know what I mean? I got the big ass hammer for when I need to really tear shit apart. I got the little ass hammer for when I need to very delicately go in and still drive a point home, but where it needs to be. And knowing the difference of when to use those different tools is, I'm telling you, man, like that has been my aha moment for, I have to say, for the majority of my late 30s.
No, I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. And again, like following your analogies, right? Like my entire life, the only thing I've known is to use the big hammer, right? No matter.
Well, and that's the thing is, like when you make
even,
the decision, I need a hammer, it's
right.
always going to be the big one. Let's fuck shit up.
Right.
Or do I need to go in there soft and just kind of tap, and it's all done?
Exactly. Like I pretty much, like, before I would handle everything like if it was like if a sledgehammer was needed, right? When in reality, like really what I needed,
maybe even a wrecking ball, bro.
Right. When in reality, all I needed was to fucking just put in a thumbtack, right? Which I could have used like a little fucking shitty mallet,
hammer. Right.
But instead I used like a fucking sledgehammer in order to make that happen. So that's another great point that you have absolutely fucking nailed, which is, yes, on top of the fact that you need to become familiar with your tools, you also need to know which version of that tool to use, right? And this is where the practice comes in. And yes, there's going to be situations where you're going to end up grabbing a screwdriver and you're going to strip the screw because you're not too familiar with it. That's okay, right? Like you're not going to be perfect every single time, but at least if somebody's looking at you and they go, "Really, motherfucker, you tried to remove that Phillips screwdriver with a saw?" Like, if you're doing that, you fucked up, right? But if somebody says to you, "Oh, you stripped the screw," nobody's gonna really fucking get mad at you because you stripped it over the fact that, like, you were using a hand screwdriver. Like, again, people are going to say, "Well, you probably should have used this instead." But nobody's going to be mad at you for doing that. And that's the part that we want you to understand, is the fact that, like, there are different tools for everything. There are tools, first of all, there are tools for everything. There is a specific tool for each individual item. And then if you don't know, just ask. It's okay for you to, like, ask questions, question people. It's okay for you to try to get to the root of it. It's okay for you to analyze. It's okay for you to take a moment just to, like, think. It's okay.
Well, and the other part to that I kind of want to bring us full circle with is, it's also okay if you're familiar with a certain group of tools to check in with your friends and make sure that they're not using sledgehammers to fix a problem they need a Phillips screwdriver for.
Great advice.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's also it, is spreading that wisdom. Whose is it if you keep it all inside?
Great.
How good is it to everybody if you just keep it inside you? You know what I'm saying? Let some of it out, because maybe somebody can learn from your mistakes. And I think, kind of to summarize today's whole episode, it's be true to yourself and start thinking about those tools in your bag. And are you using them right? Are you not? And who do you have to rely on? Who are the craftsmen in your life that you can turn to learn those specifics from? Because being kind of multi-skilled is what's going to get us all through to where we eventually get to inner peace, happiness, things like that. And I think the faster we all learn that it's being a jack of all trades, not a master at one.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, start using that stuff, start doing that thing, and you're gonna find yourself in a happier place.
Absolutely. 100%. No, and like you,
and don't be a tool bag.
And yeah, don't be a tool bag. That was good. No, like, like I think you really nailed it today with one, the question of who wins, right? That's number one, right? If you're sitting there like fucking contemplating doing a specific thing, ask yourself that question: who wins, right? Or not doing it, question yourself.
Right.
And like Brandon said, right, on top of that question, the other question is like, you know, figure out what's on your it's in your toolbox. Figure out what your friends are using. Figure out what you need to use, right, in order to really get to the best version of you that you can get to. So it's important that you do those things. And again, like, don't be afraid. We're all human beings. We all make mistakes. And like I said, that whole shit about people are judging you, yes, they're going to judge you, but they're also going to judge you because of the fact that you decided to get a cheeseburger instead of a hot dog. They're going to judge you. It's going to happen.
Sometimes you need that judgment to set you in the right direction too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
The information's all there, guys. Hit us up. All social media platforms. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, comment, interact with our videos. Watch them to the end because you might get surprises, like the cameo from the house hippo behind me.
Yes.
Right here?
Yes.
Yeah. He's pretty much a hippopotamus, but house-sized. His name's Lincoln, and he's technically a dog, but we're not sure on that.
He's a hippo. You know what's funny is that he hasn't moved the entire time.
He's kind of walked around a little bit, but he's hanging tough over there. He's keeping an eye on the front yard.
He's awesome. All right. Oh. Well, until next time, thank you for joining us on
Thank you Breakfast for joining us, guys.
Punch that like, subscribe, and then we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.
Peace.